so glad to see you. Today I'm going to take you on a small adventure throughout Sunset Park. Sunset Park is a neighborhood in Brooklyn which is very historical, rich in history, rich in culture. It's named after Sunset Park, this park where I am right now, which has 24.5 acres and is located at a high elevation and is known for its views of the skylines of New York City. For example, we can see Lower Manhattan from here and the Freedom Tower. Spectacular views. So people usually come here and have picnics, hang out and just enjoy the views, the sun, the weather. Gotta check out Sunset Park, the park. And as well, we're going to check out the neighborhood, right? Because the neighborhood, Sunset Park, is not to be missed. So we're going to be starting off on between 60th and 59th Street on 5th Ave with David Estrada. David has intimate knowledge of this little neighborhood because he is like the caretaker for Sunset Park. He works with BID, which is the Business Improvement District, and I'll let him tell you about that. I'd also like to point out that I'd eventually like to give you tours of these areas that are not in today's video. So one of them is Industry City. It's a collection of warehouses that are very historical and were abandoned for a while and then were recently rejuvenated and now support a lot of small businesses, restaurants, entrepreneurs, and artists. And it's just another world. So just know that it's there. I'm going to let's put a little pin on that for the future. Another area of Sunset Park, which is the jewel of Sunset Park, the neighborhood, is Greenwood Cemetery. And it is also historic. It's one of the first public parks here in Brooklyn. And it's also a bird sanctuary. It's recognized by the Audubon Society as having so many birds, a great place to visit. It has little monk parakeets living in its spirals. And it has a lot of art. A lot of famous and well-known individuals are buried there. Right now, as the spring is coming, it's going to have beautiful blossoming trees, flowers. If you need to get away from the city, if you live in Brooklyn, or even if you're visiting it, you have to check out Greenwood Cemetery. So enough about that, because I can go on all day about Greenwood Cemetery. Let's come back to Sunset Park. And, before we head out to meet David, I just want to say thank you for supporting my channel. As you know, my name is Patricia Wedding. I support small businesses, artists, and entrepreneurs in the culture of NYC. And secondfold, the purpose of my channel is to celebrate and elevate people of color. So thank you for supporting Besos de NYC. Thank you for supporting me, supporting us. And just know that anything we touch on today, I'll be providing links for more information down in the description. So like, subscribe, and let's go meet David.
Hello, I'm David Estrada. I'm here in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, on the corner of 59th Street and 5th Avenue, in front of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, a beautiful Catholic basilica here, and an anchor institution in our community. I'm the executive director of the Sunset Park Business Improvement District. This organization has been here since 1995, and it's built on the back of a predecessor organization, the Fifth Avenue Merchants Association. So it's a real honor to serve this community. It's a great place. I always say Sunset Park is the kind of place where New Yorkers come when they feel homesick, because you still have a neighborhood. You know your neighbors. The people who are running the small shops and businesses often have been here for 50 years or more. It's a walk to shop community. So the people who are living upstairs are walking down to the bodega to get their vegetables and their meat, and the kids are in the local school. It's a real home place. And I'm afraid in New York City, at least, a lot of these neighborhoods have faded away. And you'll hear that story over and over again. But if you like to stroll on an avenue, talk to a grocer, discover a new product that you haven't seen before, you're going to find everything you want right here in Sunset Park. The avenue is beautiful, and this business improvement district runs from about 38th Street to 64th Street. It's all of Sunset Park, and it's well served by public transit. You can get here on the N or the R train, the B63 bus, and I've been working here about 6 years, trying to take care of this neighborhood and just do any little good things we can. When there's a pothole, when the basement floods, when the city agency won't come and give you your last inspection so you can open your small business, that's what a business improvement district helps with. We have over 275 separate small businesses in the Sunset Park Business Improvement District, about 295 buildings, and as you can see when we walk around, a lot of our buildings have a retail store on the ground and then a couple apartments upstairs. It's really old school Brooklyn, and the cross streets are beautiful residential zones with row houses and small apartment buildings. Again, it's a great neighborhood. It's a great place to live and work, but it's a great place to visit and shop. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm hoping you enjoy seeing it too. Many of these buildings were vacant in the 80s, but they've all come back and are thriving. It's an important aspect of our neighborhood that it's still a place where mostly working class, mostly immigrant families have a place to make their life. And believe me, it's hard to get by in New York right now between rent and expenses and pandemic, much less. That's where a neighborhood like this is thriving at the moment, supporting the families. Some new immigrants who've just arrived, and some families that have been here for generations. Within my field of view right now, I can see 3 businesses that have been here for more than 25 years, and at least one that's been here for more than 50 years. And right next to that are some new businesses. So, you know, these small storefronts, some only 18, 24 feet wide, offer commercial leases for small entrepreneurs who can't afford other neighborhoods and who want to come to this community and serve the population that lives and visits here. So you'll find a lot of bodegas, carnicerias, you'll find a lot of vegetable shops, and the kinds of goods and services that, you know, regular folks need on a daily basis. You know, whether you live in here and shopping, or you're visiting to shop, or have a nice dinner, you're going to find everything you want. It's fantastic. The great part about this is that it builds on like a multi-generational history in Sunset Park. You know, 100 years ago, this neighborhood was Scandinavian. There were Norwegians and Finns. Then came Irish and Italians. Most of those people were focused on working on the shipyards and docks that are just 2 blocks from here. You know, so a family would come down, get a good job in a factory or on the docks, buy a little row house up near 5th, 6th Avenue, raise a family, and walk to work. That's the history of this neighborhood. More recently, we've had, you know, after World War II especially, immigrants from the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. They became the backbone of this working neighborhood. And then very recently, we have a lot of people from Mexico, from Puebla and other Latin American countries. We have a lot of people from China who are part of the neighborhood now. Just 2 blocks up from here, if 2 blocks that way is the New York Harbor, 2 blocks up we have the fastest growing and 3rd largest Chinatown in all of New York City, Sunset Park's Chinatown on 8th Avenue, also in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So this neighborhood isn't just changing in the moment. It's not just that it's dynamic and diverse and, you know, something to celebrate right now. It's the tradition of this neighborhood to welcome immigrants. It's the tradition, it's the founding of this neighborhood to have different generations of people from different parts of the world working together, thriving, and making a life here close to where they shop and work. That's what makes Sunset Park such a beautiful representation of the best things about New York City. To be here, it's part of what made me love New York to begin with. When I came 35 years ago from California, look at the variety. I can ship a package, get an ice cream cone for the kids, you know, I don't get my nails done, but you could, you know, nice Mexican restaurant, and there's the dentist on the corner. That's life in Brooklyn. That's New York City life. That's the way it used to be in so many neighborhoods here. And so many of them have lost that when you talk to people who grew up or spent their young years in the East Village or Soho or the West Village or, parts of Harlem even now, are unrecognizable. People go home and they say, I don't recognize it anymore. It changed so much. And this neighborhood has changed. Don't doubt it. This neighborhood is always changing. That's not the point. The point is when it changes, it keeps this basic setup where you can really conduct your life in the span of a few blocks and know the people that you're dealing with and have them know you. That's just the pleasure of living here. Here we have Johnny's Pizza. Don't believe the sign behind me. They've been here a lot longer than 50 years. The guy whose name is upstairs is often standing right there making the pizza like he did when he was 17 years old. That makes a big difference. He knows the church, he knows the local baseball teams, he knows the local community groups and supports them. That's so much better than a big retail chain that's owned by somebody out of state. They may be doing something that people like, but they're not connected to the neighborhood in the same way. Let me say this also. It's the same story for the landlords. We don't have big corporate landlords here. A lot of times, that little building over there where Tres Chivos Mexican restaurant is, little tiny restaurant, 3 or 4 apartments upstairs, that's owned by a family. Maybe someone's grandma ran a shop there. Okay, they retired, went to Long Island or something, but they still have roots in the neighborhood. That's a difference here. That's why there's a relationship between the architecture and the building owners, the retail operators, and the people who live just steps away. There's a kind of organic relationship if you let it happen. What's happening now with the pandemic, with regulations, with the difficulties of doing business, is we really risk losing this quality of life, and I'll say it, this culture. We've got a George's Diner that I can see right over your shoulder. It's been there 50 years, family run. These are people that we know. And when something happens in the neighborhood, if a building burns down or a school needs help, these are people who care about what's going on in a different way than might happen from other legitimate businesses, but who are not connected to the neighborhood. We're here on Fifth Avenue between 40th and 42nd Street. And this beautiful historic stone wall next to me is the western edge of Sunset Park. Sunset Park's a beautiful, beautiful New York City park with a pool and a recreation center, children's playgrounds, and one of the best views in all of New York City. You can take your Manhattan Towers. I would rather go stand in the middle of Sunset Park and look at everything from Staten Island past the Statue of Liberty to Lower Manhattan and out into New York Harbor. It's one of the most beautiful views you're going to get anywhere in New York City. This is Sunset Park. We're walking up the stairs right from the Fifth Avenue side at 43rd Street. And when you turn around, you're going to see New York Harbor on a beautiful sunny clear day. It's one of the best days to take a look at this view. Well, you got the hills of Staten Island, New Jersey, and the docklands out there, New York Harbor, the big gantries of the giant container ports on the Jersey side. All of that horizon is New Jersey. Here in the middle, the beautiful spire of St. Michael's Catholic Church on 4th Avenue and 43rd Street. It's just one of the most beautiful places in New York to be.
Alright guys, I hope you really enjoyed our tour with David Estrada. Thank you, David, again for giving us this intimate little look at Sunset Park. I hope you get to make it out here sometime soon. We've got a lot of great types of Latin cuisine, Asian cuisine, you name it. We have it out here and you need to come out and check it out. And I wanted to point out to you that if you decide to come down to Sunset Park, you can kick it off by taking the New York City Ferry, which has 2 routes. The first one, you can, if you're on the Manhattan side, is the Rockaway route, and you can catch it if you're in the financial district at Pier 11, and it'll bring you over to the Brooklyn Army Terminal. Another route of the New York City Ferry, which is inexpensive and just lovely to go on because you get a scenic view of the New York City skyline as well as the Brooklyn skyline, is the South Route. So keep that in mind. Super inexpensive if you're on a budget. I say who cares if you're on a budget, because it's inexpensive and it's an exciting little ride to come on and kick off your journey to Sunset Park. In the meantime, leave me comments. I'd love to hear what you think or any questions you might have. And like and subscribe. All right, I'm looking forward to seeing you on la próxima vez on our next adventure. This is Patricia Wedding, sending you Besos de NYC.